Hello, and welcome to this edition of the International Cannabis Conversation. My name is Chris Day, your host for this tour around the world of emerging cannabis markets. Still broadcasting here at MJBizCon. It's the 10th anniversary of MJBizCon, and it is truly fun to see all of the energy, the people from around the world, and sort of the wake-up call that's coming into the cannabis industry after being hidden behind Zoom screens and virtual meetings for the last 2 years. And as such, I get the opportunity to have back with us to ICC Andres Vazquez, President of Kumara Farms out of Lima, Peru. And Andres, you've been sort of on a roadshow the last couple of weeks. I've seen you, the last time I saw you in person was at the end of season 1 for the International Cannabis Conversation in Cartagena. We saw each other there. But since then, you've been to New York. I know you're here in Vegas. Have I missed any other places?
No. We've been to New York. We presented the company at the Bazinga event. And then coming to Vegas, we also presented at the Alternative Investment Forum on Monday.
Yep.
And then having a lot of discussions here during MJBiz.
That's great. And so this show, I mean, we've talked about your work in Peru before, but we didn't really look at what you're working on now, which is the investment side of international cannabis and building opportunity and telling these stories of what the opportunity really is in the global markets. So how have you found the reception to be on the topic of international investment in cannabis?
So I can say that it's a mixed reaction. So first of all, obviously, being an early mover in Peru, a new geography, a new location for potential investments, it is positive, and there has been very positive reaction on that. Also, the fact that we are exposing ourselves to a broader market, working with more than cannabis. However, there is still a lot of resistance in the investors community, at least my experience in these past 2 weeks, concerning two things. One is investing in South America for a lot of U.S. investors. It's still a very risky position. A lot of them are not fully aware not only about the tax repercussions of this, but also if the vehicles for investments are there for them to recover their investment, okay? And so obviously there's a lot to be done from the company as ours to present a structure that is safe for the investors, but there is that initial resistance that definitely we need to overcome.
Yeah, and I think, we were talking a little bit in the pre-show prep. Part of it is just looking at how things have been over the last couple of years,
Yes.
similar to that tech crash in the mid to late 90s, right, where there was a lot of hype, and then some of the early entrants didn't have the substance behind the hype.
Absolutely.
And so I think the next generation obviously is stronger because they need to actually build the company and tell the story, but you also get a little bit punished for the sins of the past, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I think that in the industry, in the global industry in cannabis, a lot of people talk about that initial hype where a lot of Canadian companies were involved, and then we can say the crash in the stock's value on 2019, where the market was not there. But that same situation, and probably a smaller scale, happened, for example, on the Colombia investment projects. And that has been a very clear feedback that I've got from several investors that either themselves or some other parties they know invested heavily in the first wave of the cannabis regulation in Colombia. And as you well know now, there are good companies, and there are companies that were not as structured or organized, or their business model was not clear, or the fundamentals are not there. But there's money that has been lost in Colombia, and that is, and I say this very respectfully because I work with a lot of people in Colombia, and I have very good friends that are trying really to put their companies in a very good position.
Yep.
But the truth is that when we have been approaching investors, if the investors have been exposed to Colombia, I have a lot of reaction, negative reaction, saying, hey, I know you're early mover, but if we're going to have in Peru the same story as Colombia, I would rather wait until see if the company is stable, no? So they are a little bit resistant of that early mover position.
Yeah, it's, I just finished recording an episode where I was talking about some similar things in Central Africa. We were talking about the Congo, actually, and it's, similar challenge, right? You want to come in, you want to make every similar challenge in the sense that both are emerging markets, very different platforms, very different structures and all that. But you want to make a positive impact for the community that you're operating in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to build a strong, sustainable business. People want to see proof of concept.
Exactly.
It's sometimes hard to make the proof of concept happen without the investment, so it becomes a chicken and the egg kind of story.
Yes, it is.
Right? But I do think, based on my trips to Colombia, based on my conversations with people in Peru, talking to folks out of the Congo, that early atmosphere of irrational exuberance, which was often used by the U.S. Fed chairman back during the tech boom, right? I think we're mostly past that. There is still certainly a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, so I don't want to say it's gone, but people are treating this industry finally like what it is, which is a valid industry with lots of different opportunities around the world for people to participate in, make lots of money, and do well by doing good, which is something I know you're dedicated to as well.
Yes. And what you said is very true. So I would say the most productive conversations that I've had in these past 2 weeks are way past that initial, yes, you have a license, yes, you have all the options in the world, and let's go from there. No, there are conversations that go deep into, okay, what is the business model? What are the fundamentals of your company? What is your team? So it's a conversation that you could have in any other industry, any other serious industry. And I think that is, this is validating one thing that I heard about several years ago. Investors don't invest really in the country or in the market. They invest in one specific company. So they need to understand, and we are here for that, why would they invest in this particular company, in this business model? And that's a good conversation for us to have, but it makes also a little bit more difficult to find the people to talk like this about it.
Yeah, it's so for a period of time in my career, I actually had stockbroker's license in the United States, had all of those licenses, and the reason was not because I was out there actively buying and selling, but I did a lot of marketing work for investment companies, and so understanding the rules and what you can and can't say and how you approach accredited investments versus others, there was a common theme where it really was, when you were talking to investors, there was a burden of responsibility on the investors to do their vetting, but there's also a burden of responsibility on the company to tell the story of their structure. You could always sniff out the bad ones at the beginning if the whole first part of the presentation was pretty pictures of whatever country, capital, place, because they were trying to get that positive emotive feeling from you before they threw up the spreadsheets that really told you there was nothing there, but they really wanted to sell you some snake oil. So I do think in this industry, like, this is not investment advice to all of you out there, because I can't put any out there anymore, don't have my licenses, but I do encourage people, yes, you want to look at these emerging markets because there are great opportunities there, but you can't get enamored with a specific one until you really look at who is operating these entities. The reason we have Andres on here is because I know him well. I know his company. We've talked often, and I know his spirit is that of education and helping people to really understand, finding those types of people who want to work with you as an investor, not just take your money. Those tend to work out much better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one other thing that I would encourage anybody who wants to get involved is that now that some borders are start to reopening again, let's travel.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, and it's completely understandable. If somebody's going to put money in a company that has its main operations in another country, you should travel. Go
Yes.
there, visit, and understand and have a real feeling of the environment. Obviously, as a company, I would love that an investor just comes today and say, you know what, I trust you, I like your company, here's my check, and that's it.
Would
But-
you though? Because
Huh?
that would make me nervous.
No, I understand,
Right?
but I
I'd be
mean,
like,
I would say from a practical point of view,
Yeah.
because you save time. But really,
Sure.
if an investor is going to help us, okay, they really need to understand who we are, what we're doing, why are we doing it, and I think
Yeah.
the why is very important
course.
also in a long-term project. So please travel, start
Yeah.
visiting.
Absolutely. It's a common bond. You've got to be able to get out of your own country to understand how the rest of the world works, and that's no different in the cannabis industry.
Yes.
And I know that's why you get out a lot
Yeah.
as well. So it's funny. I was telling this story the other day. We're here in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, and I was looking for my ID because I always love it when the folks at a bar ask me for my ID because it's it's
encouraging.
nice to pretend like it's because they can't tell I'm almost 50. But I was looking for my passport,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh wait, I left my passport at home because it didn't cross a border this time. I've spent so much time on international flights lately talking to people that it was kind of a momentary glitch in my mental state. But I liked it, and it made me laugh because for the first time in so long,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
can actually do that. And it does help me understand what we're talking about on this show and understand companies like yours and what you're looking for. So, as we wind down the show and this episode, you mentioned, I wanted to ask a question about Kumara because you mentioned it's not only focused on cannabis.
Yes.
You're looking at a broader approach than
Mhm.
that. So how do you see that breadth of approach helping you in this discussion or hurting? I mean, whichever. I'm assuming it's helping, but
Yes.
how is that helping sort of talk through with investors opportunities?
I think it's helping very substantially because what I see in investors, mainly in investors that have already been exposed to cannabis, is that they want their new investments to be in a company that is a little bit different, that you have something special that is not just another investment in a cannabis LP. So the fact that we are already working on this portfolio of other medicinal plants allow us basically two things. Again, differentiation on the revenue stream that we can generate in the company from other products. But also very important is that, as you well know, you're expert in marketing, we can have more flexibility advertising and promoting a product, a non-cannabis product, because it is less regulated at this moment. So that allows us some, I would say, extra room to move in the market, and that has been very, very positive for the investors.
Yeah, I've seen that trend a lot. A number of my GCNC members and a number of other companies I've talked to as well are starting to shift their discussions much more towards holistic plant medicine or holistic health in general, even removing out medicine and just talking about holistic health. And I think from a trend perspective, that's going to likely be quite lucrative. And, a cultural piece on Peru, I think you're also taking advantage of some of the unique history and affiliation with plants and medicine there as well, are you not?
Absolutely. And we're not the only country in the world that still has a very, I would say, strong connection to its roots in history. So it's positive that in Peru we'll still have relationships with the Inca culture in the Andes, and for example the Aymara culture in the jungle, and that allows us to still be able to find that ancient knowledge in the people. But again, I think that it's a model that we would love to see other companies to explore. I think that Mexico has already a culture in traditional medicine, and I would love to see companies that start merging their business models towards that. Obviously, you mentioned Africa. There must be some countries that definitely have a lot to show. And Asia, there are also a lot of ancient medicine, in Asia. And we would love, again, to see companies that start merging the concept because, as a matter of fact, as a consumer, as a person, you just want to be healthy. Honestly, if that health comes from a plant that is from China, another from India, another from Peru, I don't care. I mean, I want to be healthy.
Right, absolutely. Yep. And we have an episode coming up, actually, looking at India.
Okay, great.
So I'm recording that in a couple of hours. People out there in podcast land, you'll hear it in a couple of weeks. But you're absolutely right. And that sort of fusion of cultures is one of the things that I truly love about the cannabis industry overall.
Absolutely.
Because the plant sort of is bringing everybody together and really re-educating the human race on things that we have forgotten. So,
absolutely.
Andreas, thank you so much for joining us again on the show. It's always a pleasure. And to all of you out there, don't forget to subscribe to the International Cannabis Conversation. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.